Welcome to Harbor Spaces, where refuge meets community. Harbor Spaces is more than just a name. It's a sanctuary, a place of shelter, safety, and belonging. It's where we come to anchor ourselves, reflect deeply, and reconnect with what truly matters. Inspired by the rhythm of nature and the ever-flowing waters, Harbor Spaces offers a grounding presence in a fast-moving world. Here, we revive the lost art of community, communication, cooperation, and collaboration. This is a space for seekers, those who long for peace, purpose, and authentic connection. So take a deep breath, settle in, and welcome home. This is Harbor Spaces.
Welcome to Harbor Spaces, where today we explore the unseen threads that connect us within ourselves, with one another, and with the greater field of consciousness itself. Today I'm honored to be joined by Kara Bauer-LeMonds, who has recently journeyed through the Telepathy Tapes podcast, a series that invites us to expand beyond spoken language and step into the realm of energetic communication. We'll explore her insights, reflections, and any transformations that emerged from her listening to this deep, transformative podcast. So take a deep breath, settle in, and welcome to Harbor Spaces. Hi, Kara. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me, friend.
What a wonderful podcast that was,
It's
correct?
really cool.
Yes, and so we just want to help shine some light on the importance of what that podcast brought to, it seems like globally, number one
it's
podcast.
Just on fire, which it should be.
Absolutely. So could you explain your connection with Dickens, the person who started the podcast, and how you heard about the Telepathy Tapes?
Yeah. So I met Kai when I moved back to Chicago in 2012. She's a director and a documentary filmmaker. I was working in film production at the time. So we had people in common that introduced us. And I took to her right away. She's just a really neat human. She's just super cool and centered and smart and lovely. She's an amazing mom. She's an amazing wife. She's just a really cool person. And we got to know each other when her family was really young. She had just had her daughter. So we talked about working together and doing stuff together. We did work a couple of her jobs together. I think I did a commercial or two with her because she does commercials as well. And so I had heard she did a podcast, which I thought, that's interesting because I'd seen her other documentaries and I knew she was working on a bunch of films and she had since moved to LA with her family, doing more commercial work. And I was like, a podcast, what's this about? And so I just listened to it just out of solidarity for a friend and fellow filmmaker. I was like, I want to see what Kai's project's about. And I literally listened to the first episode and was just simultaneously felt wholehearted and in tears at the same time. 3 of my best friends, my best friend, Sarah, her daughter has cerebral palsy and is limited verbally and in a wheelchair. My best friend, Jenny, in Chicago, her son is autistic and partially verbal. And my brother, Joel, his son my darling nephew, Alex, has a very rare genetic condition called TAFT1, which left him with no cochlea and autistic I think they call it autism, although it's because of Taft that he has this, or TAF, I think it is. He has the autistic tendencies. But regardless, my life has been full and loved and made so much better by these 3 children in my life that I love so much. And I've watched the transformation in their parents because as a parent, we're both parents, your expectations start the minute those cells start dividing. And you work so hard as a parent not to throw those expectations on your children or on yourself because it's just stressful anyway when you have a neurodivergent kid who's dealing with different disabilities and you have, these dreams of all of their high, regular running around, playing sports capabilities, which seems so minor in the long run. Sure. You have to grieve that. You have to let that go. That version of your kid you thought you're going to have, you have to let go. And so when you're watching people you love go through it, and you're going through it with them because you equally love those children and those families, it takes you out of this just really small space of thinking of what the potential of human life is. Right. And it forces you to open up your mind and know that this person doesn't see the world exactly the way you do. That is amazing. right? And then you realize yes. And well, then what happens is you start to realize, well, neither do I.
Right.
And I'm neurotypical, right? And so you realize that we are each just this precious individual in the way we see the world and think, and the way our brain fires, and the way our metabolism kicks in, and the way our metabolic systems work. And, we're all just this weird, precious, metabolized creature, and they're no different. And the way they're seeing the world, I remember having this conversation saying, who's to say that what we're feeling in terms of loss, they even feel, and they don't, because they never knew it. They don't feel there's a loss in who they are. They love who they are. And so, and already kind of thinking this way or exploring this with my best friends and their beautiful babies and our beautiful love and family and friendship, I'm just like already geared up for this podcast. Yeah. And I didn't even know it. I didn't know that's what it was about. And I listened to the first episode and I was just like, oh my God, like crying and hopeful and like so inspired. And then just as it went on and on, just knowing Kai, she's very logical. She's very analytical. She's not a clickbaiter. She's not someone who's looking for this, I'm going to find the next best thing to give me attention. It's like she finds this really important cause. Her first film was about being from a religious family and coming out as gay, and she had to overcome that. Another one was about paid family leave and how it's just so disproportionate to what we need and how it affects families, because she was going through it. So I know a lot of what she had done in the past resonated with what she was going through in life. And I found out through interviews and then listening to the podcast that she had lost people, and that it had given her this opportunity to do the telepathy tapes was born of this need to know, who are we? Where do we come from? Are we connected after death? And I had gone through a ton of tragedy myself. I lost my brother, my aunt, my grandmother, my aunt, and then my mother, all in 16 months. So just enormous amount of loss. And when you lose somebody, especially someone like your mom or a parent, even a sibling, but more so a parent, when they are so connected to you, you just miss them in a way that's like hard to absorb. Like it's like, I described losing my mom as like Chernobyl. Like it was like there was this hole in our life and all of us were just burnt images on the wall trying to figure out who the hell we were without her, dysfunctional or not. Like your parents are your nucleus, and when that goes away, even as an adult, you're unmoored. And I think you look for them. When you've had such loss, doesn't matter what you've lost, even if it's a beloved creature that you loved so much, you look for them, because you just miss them. And so there's definitely, something that I'm more attuned to in the spiritual sense, because I've been actively looking for these people I had lost. And so the podcast just really resounded with me. And what I really appreciated about it was not only did it speak upon autism and nonverbal autistic children and people, but how vast it is, how huge this network is, and how hopeful it is that there is so much more than we even know. And so maybe you want to talk a little bit more about what the podcast is about.
Yeah. Let's, if you could, in your own words, just summarize like what you see the podcast as. Yeah.
So the Telepathy Tapes is an incredible podcast that talks about children. So there's this amazing doctor named Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell, and she was researching savantism in autistic kids. So kids who could play the piano, kids who could do calculus, or just humans who could speak 10 languages. And it sort of fed into people who maybe have like a brain injury, but it makes them able to, see ghosts or whatever. So like, it's just really, it started with this idea about what we're capable of in terms of our consciousness in the human mind. And that's what Kai touched on. She had heard about this woman and started to be interested in what she does. And in talking to her, found that a lot of the caregivers, whether they were parents or OTs or, any of their paras, like anybody, grandparent, a sibling, were finding these kids talking to them telepathically, and none of them were verbal. So it happened when they either learned to speak through iPad or they learned through spelling, which is this kind of letterboard that they can use to like spell things. And so Kai dove deeper into it and as a skeptic at first, she insisted on doing her own testing and brought in her crew, and they made all these provisions and protections to make sure that that initial test that they did would truly show them whether or not this is a real thing or whether they're, kind of in the middle of a strange situation. And as she gets further and further into it in the podcast, you realize that telepathy isn't this only gift, that what it's starting to show is that these kids are operating not in a verbal way, but in a consciousness way. Like they're tapping into each other's thoughts and speaking and everything and art and creativity, but in something that is so limited by humans that it exists in this beautiful space. And so throughout the series, you find, this is not only happening in one place with a group of people who know each other, it's happening all over the world. And a lot of these families think they're the only family this has ever happened to until they contact Dr. Powell. And Dr. Powell's like, no, I'm hearing this from Mexico, I'm hearing this from the Netherlands, I'm hearing this from Texas and Michigan and Illinois and California. And so it's just this kind of phenomena that when you hear about it, it becomes hard to not believe. But of course, we all are born with skepticism. And I think that they also really talk about that really well. Like in the episode 6, they really go deeply into sort of the scientific part of it and the proving it and talking about the fact that, it's very controversial and wants to be disputed. And then, what I really touched on, and I was on episode 6 when I told you about the podcast. And then I got that text from you where you're like, I'm in the gym and I'm crying. And I was like, right, because it is absolutely all of us. What it's talking about is not limited to families who are dealing with autism diagnoses and people they love having autism. It's all of us. It makes us realize that there is a connection there that so often we have somehow tuned out, and that, again, like I said, sometimes when you're dealing with loss, or maybe you're someone who's connected to nature, you hear it a little more, your frequency is vibing a little higher. And a lot of people think that's BS. But I mean, I think if you have any degree of spiritualism, whether you're a religious person or a spiritual one, you're looking for God wherever you can find it because it brings us peace, right?
Absolutely.
And so finding that, we are probably closer to that, which I think this podcast kind of shows us. We are closer to God and to the spirits of the people that are not only here with us, but the ones that we've lost than we think. And I find that, though it may be woo-woo, I find it absolutely the most comforting thing.
I was going to say peace.
Yeah, it brings me, it just brings me this thought oh my gosh, we're going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. And so for me, listening to this in such a tumultuous time in our human lives helps bring me peace. So I've since I'd tell everybody to listen to it, mostly because it's in a situation where people are feeling really lost and scared. And I'm like, listen to this, it brings you this place of peace. And in episode 9, they talk a lot about being able to talk to people who have crossed over. And I think one of the more interesting stories, which isn't about someone who is autistic, it's about someone who had a closed head injury. She was a military woman. And in this closed head injury, she started seeing spirits. And they would come to her with a message to give to someone. And she's not a medium. She's not paid for it. She doesn't ask for it. It just happens. And she feels compelled. Somebody comes up to her and says, hey, can you tell my friend that I'm this? And she's walks over and says, hey, do you have a friend who's named Jeff? And he's, and they're just like, wow. And she does it to bring them love, to bring them
hard to believe
sense of goodness.
Skepticism when something like that happens.
It's
right?
just so cool. I mean, and doesn't it beat the alternative, right?
Yeah.
Would we rather just live in this materialism and realism, or would it just be more fun to just know that we are beloved? We are just loved. There's just so much more love in the world than we even are tapping into. That's what I got from it more than anything, because a lot of it was well, couldn't they use this for bad? And she's like, no, you cannot get in if your aim is not true. You cannot access these points. And there's one more, I don't want to give anything away because I want you all to listen to it, but there's one point where this conversation about something called the hill keeps showing up in all these different places. And what they found is the hill is this space and consciousness, almost like a big Zoom, right? Where these kids and these people from all over the world meet to talk in their consciousness. And it's just the coolest concept of all time. Like, I want to go to the hill. Like, all of us want to go to the hill. But what they're saying is, no, like, you have to have a special entrance to this world. You have to have a true aim. And there's a beautiful person that they refer to throughout the series who becomes a very important part of this. His name is John Paul. They call him JP. And, his message in the end is just so perfect. And it's like, it's just truly about love. Like, it's just about love. And I'm like, I'm in. Sold.
Absolutely. Beautiful. You brought up the hill and everything already. So let's take a moment to define maybe what telepathy is for people that don't know what telepathy is. And then also just elaborate on how love, trust, and presence plays an active role in being able to communicate telepathically.
Oh, wow. You want me to answer that?
You've already kind of done it. Telepathy, what is that?
Telepathy, and what I understand in just my basic knowledge, is the ability to communicate non-verbally. It sounds like it would be something you would do in a space of consciousness, like to be able to, speak to someone. What I loved about learning about telepathy, because I don't know a ton about it, was because it's not filtered through a human mind or a human mouth or something that we can understand. It can be as vast as understanding Latin or like hieroglyphs, because in consciousness, it's not a physical capability of learning something. It's just you're speaking. It's almost like in those alien movies, right? Like where you had those different movies where you hear them, but you're hearing it how you hear it. So like maybe you're a human and they're speaking gloop gloop, but they're speaking to you in English in your mind so that you can hear them. What I understand is telepathy is communication that's nonverbal, that's in the ether, like it's in this space of consciousness. Is that right? Did I get it?
Yes, and JP, John Paul, kind of said like, what you've already said, that it can't be used for evil. It has to come from a space of love.
Yeah.
And telepathy also, you can't enter that space unless you bring yourself into present moment awareness, and that you trust that what you're hearing is real,
right,
and that you're coming from that sense of love. Yeah. And so like the hill to me, or that space where I believe collective consciousness exists, is just a tapping into. And that is like an Akashic field. It's like tapping into space-time itself, which has all the remembrance of past, present, and future.
Seems like
time is not linear, it's a loop, and so everything has already been and always will be. So you're really just tapping into that. I love the fact that you brought up like hieroglyphs and stuff, because there was people that were like able to like
understand
read them. Yes.
What?
And that's code, and that's geometric coding left in space-time itself for us to remember that we are all telepathic, and that we are all connected, and that there is a space of one consciousness that we all come from.
I think that's just beautiful, and I think what's controversial about the podcast and about the concept of the podcast is, science and medicine in particular is based on materialism. It's on, what our body can do, like what it produces, what it, it builds, what it makes. And so this idea turns that whole paradigm on its head and says, well, what if consciousness came first? And the materialism was built on top of the consciousness, which I think, for some of us, that's not such a hard stretch. Like some of us are like, absolutely, and some people have a harder time with it. So, I think what I love about Kai's podcast is she's not there to change everyone's opinion on everything. She's like, here's what I found. And I found it remarkable. And not only did I find it remarkable, but I found it absolutely soul-soothing and beautiful. And anyone who's going to put that message into the world, I'm in. I'm in. And so it's like, I don't even need to be a skeptic, because that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to get nuts and bolts proof about anything. I'm here, I'm present and learning new things, because I've already seen the beauty of what neurodiverse, different dimensional, gorgeous human beings can do. I see it every day. I get hugs from him and her and him and their moms and dads, and anything that could give us hope that we are hearing them and can give them the best life that they deserve is a gift. I don't want to go political, but just lately there's just been such interesting talk about sort of why is this happening? And so, it's so awful. And it's like, that just kills me because I don't want you to devalue these people. These people are amazing. In fact, I would venture to say they are probably more happy than we are because they don't burden themselves with this silly, this anvil of humanity. Yeah. They're out there living their best spiritual self. Their body doesn't work right. It's misfiring. So are you going to sit there and concentrate on something that's not doing you the service? Are you going to put your whole life and soul into something that's filling you up? Yeah. So when I watch my nephew Stim, I'm just like, he's as happy as a clam right now. Like, he is so happy. I want to dive into Alex and find out what Alex is feeling because he is on fire right now. Yeah. I'm sitting here like using a knife and fork, and this is onerous and annoying. And he's over there like probably riding a rainbow. You know what I mean? Like, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous to see that joy,
Yeah, well, as far as I can tell, a lot of the autistic kids don't even recognize that they have a body. Yeah. Meaning that they're closer to their spirit self than they are to this material self. Right. And it's like when they have to use the spelling board and stuff, a lot of times they have to be touched to realize that they're in the body.
And I learned that in this podcast. It's wild, I didn't even know that. And here I spend all my time with these 3 beloved kids and many more. And I'm just like, so that's why. Like, I mean, it's just there's so many things we don't understand. It's what's wrong with us.
We're so stuck in this body that we forgot that we have a higher self that is communicating us with us all
We
the time.
are the limited ones.
We are the limited ones.
Not them.
Yes. Yeah. They are much further along.
And I think that a podcast like this, and just it's a really wonderful perfect storm because it's Kai's character, it's who she is, it's her voice. It's so many cool things about her that will make this palatable to a large swath of humans. Like, it's a perfect storm. Like, I honestly don't believe anyone else could deliver it the way she does. Even when I try to talk about it to people, I'm like, just listen. Right. Because I think about it all the time. I probably tell people to listen to it like 6 times a day. And I feel like, honestly, I'm not marketing this. Right. This is not any kind of me trying to promote my friend's work, although I am because it's worth it. But even if I did not know her, I would want everyone to hear it, just to give it a shot. Even if it's not for you, it's worth a listen. Because if anything, it makes you feel amazing in the end. You're just like, absolutely. I'm so special.
So which story or message resonated the most with you out of all of the episodes? I know that probably that connection with your mother that you got to rekindle and understand was probably one of them.
Well, I was going to say, I've experienced a lot of death. And episode 9 is a lot about that part, talking about the woman that gathered the gift to get messages. I also have a friend, actually it's his birthday today. Mm-hmm. Happy birthday, Jeff. My buddy Jeff Woods was horribly murdered in just a weird fight, drunken, stupid thing. And it was devastating to all of us because he was such a gorgeous, unique, cheerful, beautiful person. And we miss him so much. And it's funny because it's like, I look for him, right? Like, I look for things for him to show me. And like our friend, we met through this this friend, John. And John will post something funny about like some disgusting type of Mountain Dew. And we're like, Woods would have loved that with Taco Bell, like just remembering little things about him. Because he was brilliant, but funny and zany and just absolutely unique. And so, his sister and I have become really dear friends since his death because I also lost my brother, Jeff. And my brother, Jeff, plays me music, which is interesting. He'll play me some obscure 90s song, or I was having trouble. I think I posted about this. I was having trouble with when we had the ice storm and we had been out of our house for 7 days and the kids were fighting and everything was all crazy. And I got in my car and he played me Touch of Grey. He played the I Will Get By part from Touch of Grey. And I was like, thank you, Jeffrey, because it was his birthday a couple days after that. So it's like little things like that. I mean, I remember sitting in my apartment in Chicago with Henry, my son, when he was 1. And my son was born just a couple weeks shy of my mom's birthday, about a year and a half after she died. And we were sitting in the kitchen and I have a coffee pot behind us. And I said to him, Henry, do you remember when you were in heaven with Grandma, when you were sitting at her knee before you came to me? And he just laughed and smiled, and the coffee pot turned on. Like there was a light that I'd never set that thing in my life. Like I've never done the timer thing, but just the red light just went click. And I was just like, hi, Mom, So I'm always looking for things like that because I miss them, and I believe that. And I believe that the veil is thin between me and my people. Episode 9 was a really huge deal for me because, we learn of the death of an important person in the series and how they communicated the other side to the people in their life that they loved. And just communicating that piece of it is just like, I believe it so fully. And it was almost like, oh my gosh, it's like they're reading my mind because that's how I saw it. I lost my brother in a very complicated way. He was a very complicated man, ended very terribly. And he experienced a lot of pain in his life. And I just remember the week after he died, it was summer and the sun was shining so brightly, and all I could see was his smile. Like every time I shut my eyes, I could just see him as he was, as his best self. And I'm just like, that's it. That's where he is, like that's it, In my heart, I just knew. So those stories really affected me a lot. And, I felt really, I don't know, validated, I guess, in a way. But I also just I love the episodes and the stories. I mean, I can't really even pinpoint one character or one group because they're all sort of echoing similar astonishing things. And that is just when you love someone, especially as a parent, and even as an aunt or a friend, when you love a child and you want so badly to care for them and know them and help them find their way, and you are limited in that by verbal communication, and suddenly you have a way. Suddenly they're there. Suddenly they're showing you. Even our Alex with his iPad. Hey, I want an Oreo, Aunt Kara. And I'm just like, he's talking to me. Like, this is fantastic, And for these kids to just come and be able to have this entire, like these families are suddenly seeing this whole person. Like it wasn't John Paul, it was the other main character. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm forgetting his name. Houston. And Houston's mom was saying that she had been looking for a way to, know him and be with him since he was a child. And they did not discover spelling until he was like a senior in high school. Yeah. And suddenly this whole kid shows up. And you just think of all of those years we missed, not knowing how to find him. And so when I hear something like this, I'm like, can you imagine we can find these kids right away? Like we can love them and know them right away. And I mean, as a loving person and parent and, aunt and friend, God, what more do you want,
Yeah, and stop looking at them like there's something wrong with them.
No. And it's presumed competence, duh, of course. Right. Like, how dare we? But, I mean, they've been told that forever. Oh, they've got the capability of a 2-year-old. They have the capability of a 3-year-old. How do we know this? Yeah. Or suddenly they can play, Chopin. It's like... I mean, why does it take that for us to presume that there's something more going on? So, I mean, I immediately, the minute, Nina was born, she was the first child in my life that was born with any kind of difficulty, if that's what we even call it. Mm-hmm. I just, right away, just watching Sarah and Ryan, just advocate for her and do everything on the planet. I was like, there's no way she's not in there like a ball of fire. Right. She had all this personality. She was so silly and funny and great, and everything they told her she wouldn't do, she did. Like she just constantly showed us all the time. Like they don't know. Yeah. They don't know. And and I think any of us, if we talk about our health, if we're talking about our physical health, our mental health, our spiritual health, all of us know that nobody knows better than you do who you are and how well you are, So, I mean, how can we presume any different from people we just can't get those straight answers out of,
The limited answers.
Limited, that's right.
Was there any part of the series that challenged your previous beliefs or perceptions of human communication?
I mean, I am a total verbal communicator. That's like my superpower is words. So, I went back to a situation when I was in Germany. When I was 25, I traveled Europe. And when I was 16, I knew German fairly fluently. Thank you, Mr. Zinsley. When I was in Germany and when I was 16, I could speak the language really quite easily and felt very confident. When I went back 10 years later, I couldn't. And so I'm with all these cool people and all these great, young, new people I want to talk to and be myself, but I can't. because I don't know the language. So, and they're not comfortable speaking English, or they feel the same way about English like I do about German, where they just don't feel it's sufficient enough. But they're also with their best friends. They're all talking, nah, 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 nah. And I remember like the third day in, I was with my friend Robbie, and I just started to cry. And he's like, what are you so upset about? I said, I just don't feel like me. I feel like none of your friends are going to know who I am because I can't be myself. I can't discourse. I can't talk. I can't explain. I can't, because I don't speak the language. And it was humbling. It was super duper humbling, but also a really great lesson. Like, you know what? There has to be a different way. There has to be a different way for your spirit and yourself to shine through. And I think as you age, you realize that, and you meet those people who are your people and that see you. Like, I mean, when you have people in your life that absolutely see you, regardless of the ugly and the bad or the really brilliant or the wonderful, they just see you. It's just so simple. And I think that goes back, and so the lessons I learned not necessarily was something that I wasn't already thinking of. It just sort of further nailed the point that you're on the right path, kid. Like the way you're looking at yourself and your spirit and the people that you surround yourself with, you're on the right path.
So has your intuition or your sensitivity to a different realm changed since?
I'm trying, but as we know, it takes practice. I mean, it takes learning to be still, learning to listen. You're very skilled in meditation, and so it is a practice. That's why if anybody does take yoga, which is my first experience with meditation or Vipassana or like any of that, you have to work to slow your brain down and stop those thoughts from interfering with what you're feeling and what you're seeing. And it's a practice. So I'm working harder at it just because I'm like, yeah, I want to go to the hill, but no, I'm working harder at being more present, at absorbing the beauty in things and finding.
That's key right there.
Yeah. And finding that energy source. And I would say, honestly, one of the biggest reasons my husband and I moved back to Northern Michigan as Northern Michigan kids was our recollection of the peace that comes from nature and being in the quiet and the sound of the wind in the trees and the birds it's so quaint. It really is, but it's because it is universal. Yeah. That's it. That's what we're meant to do. We've just sort of talked ourselves out of it and evolved ourselves out of it and built ourselves out of it and covered ourselves out of it. And it's showing now how disruptive that is to human nature. I mean, I think that our souls connect in a very pure way, fingertip to fingertip kind of way. And the more that we put in between those fingertips, the harder it is to hear each other.
Absolutely. You brought up the hill again. I have actually been to a space like the hill. Of course, it was, brought forth with psychedelics, but it is a very peaceful place. And when you're in a place of the hill, it is absolutely your responsibility to let go of ego, because what is happening is your ego is trying to exist in a higher plane. So your material self is trying to be your higher self, and you're like, no, you belong in the world, cool. Not of this space. Recently, I was down in Peru and, journeyed on some ayahuasca and really got into that space of the hill where everyone in the facility entered that space.
I was going to ask, is it just the people you're immediately with, or were from other places?
Not really. There's more that get brought in.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like Christ consciousness sitting there and you're trying to be part of it. And you're all communicating it. And it was like absolute, we could only really touch that space when all egoic thought would end in the room. Oh. And you could just hear and feel each person trying to let go.
Wow.
And then when you got to that space, it was absolute peace. Like touching the hand of God.
But isn't it crazy how hard it was to let?
And you could only hold that space for a second, and then somebody would be like, well, this is weird, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And, so, I've been in a telepathic situation several times, and now I can enter it more readily through meditation and just holding space and peace and getting that monkey mind to just release.
But are you finding, when you're in a telepathic state, are you finding communication with other people in a telepathic state? Or are you able to hear the minds of people around you? Or
no, it's just the people in that state
that are working at it. Yeah, I feel that too.
Because
like
the
I feel like
vibration's
it's not. Yeah, because I feel like what I've learned from this podcast and just kind of reading about it and thinking about it since is it seems like it's in our UFO space age learning we're like we think of it like, oh, somebody's just going to read my thoughts. But from what I hear from this and just even talking to you have to make an extreme effort to get your abilities to get back into that state, and that it's only people who are really reaching that level that are finding each other in that state.
Yeah.
Which I think is comforting. It's kind of like you need to have a pass to get in.
It's not like you can use this to, read people's minds and find out what they're thinking and that. Like you both have to be in that space.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, using telepathy and nonverbal communication, how do you feel that plays a role in spiritual growth in this plane?
Oh, wow. I don't know. I mean, I've never really thought about that. I don't think of myself as someone who will, I would love to learn it. I don't know if I ever will, but in that, I appreciate it so much, and I don't know.
Well, let's say that
rephrase that.
You already have experienced it.
Okay.
I mean, if you're getting communication from the other side.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that's nonverbal communication, and that's telepathy, and you're hearing through songs what people want to say to you. You're hearing through, or you're seeing, connection.
Yes.
So how is that building your spirituality within you, and how is it giving you more hope and more?
It just compounds what I hope is. Like it makes me, think that there's just so much more at work to make our lives well. And I think the more you detach from it, the unhappier you become. That ego-driven life, I think I have this conversation a lot, especially with young people. It's very hard when you're young, you are so driven by validation. All you want is to be validated. Mm-hmm. You want to be told you are smart enough. You want to be told you're dateable. You want to be told you're going to be successful. You want to be told that you're sensual enough, or that you are valued in the rooms that you're in, that your opinion and your thoughts and your direction is enough. Like all you do in your early age is just try so hard to get people to tell you you're worth something, right? That's been sort of given to us. That's like a birthright of humanity, which is tragic, because what it does is it shreds us. It pushes us down. It puts us in holes and boxes, and it makes you doubt yourself over and over. So almost like that pathway is just doubt instead of innovation, hope, happiness, love, And I think there's this wonderful thing, and I think historically, they've always called it a midlife crisis, but I see it as a midlife evolution. And that is when you hit your midlife, which I'm 50 in a month, you stop caring about that validation. And you realize, mostly because you have the ability and the honor to have looked back at your history and see, well, check. Like you've checked so many of those boxes that you needed to have to be validated. And you look back on it, whether it's career or children or marriage or a partnership or travel, all these things that, we've been told that makes us worthy. And when you have all those things in your bag and you look at it and you go, I'm still not there. Like, I'm still not there. So what's it going to take me to get there? And some people think more, and that's where the midlife crisis comes in. Right. And some people think less. Mm. And that's the evolution, because all of these things come with baggage. All of these things are like bricks in your bag. And the more you let them go, the more, like, even, I will take my crown jewel out of my bag, which is my children, right? I'll take the greatest thing that's ever happened to me in my life and say, they are my heaviest thing. And I will put them on my shoulders, but then I will also try to lighten it by giving them space and living in the moment. If I live 2, 3, 4 years out, I'm so stressed. What if this? What if that? What if they don't? What if they do? What if this happens to them? What if that happens to them? And I'm somebody who experiences generalized anxiety disorder. So this is like times 20 for me. This is like a freaking boulder in my bag. So I have to live in the now. I have to trust their own little souls. I have to do my best as a mom to teach them respect and discipline and love and hard work and caring. But I have to trust that they will handle it, right? And that is so hard, that letting go. I have to trust that even though my bank account is not overflowing with riches, that I'll be okay. I have to trust that I don't know exactly where my next job is or what career is going to take off, or this hope and dream I have is ever going to take flight. But it's better to have that hope and that happiness and that like, okay, let's give it a whirl, than to be like, well, I'm not going to try because this is what I've been taught. Like, this will not validate me to the people that are expecting this of me. This will not validate me to the PTA or to the this or to the that. And you just don't realize how heavy that burden becomes until you start taking those rocks out and saying, it's a golden brick, but I'm leaving it, because it just doesn't help me. It holds me in a place that's limited. And I just feel like spiritually and just happiness-wise, like if there's anything, the pursuit I have in middle age for the rest of my life is content. I want to be happy. I want joy in my life. And I've had joy in 5-star hotels, and I've had joy eating toro in New York City, and I've had joy, swimming in the ocean and, meeting celebrities and doing all these different things. I've had joy, but it means half as much as what it felt to watch my kids dive into Lake Huron, or to paddle over, the rocks here and hear the wind in the trees, and look at the fact that the house that I randomly bought is covered in lily of the valley, which is my mom's favorite flower, So like, it's just little stuff like that now brings me the happiness that I never allowed it to before. And that's the important part. I never allowed it to. It wasn't that I didn't have it. It wasn't that I didn't experience it. I just didn't give it I didn't take it out of there and put it way up here where it belongs. Yeah. And that this podcast and just this idea of love being everything. Like, it is so much more important to love than anything. And, I'm a Gemini, so part of me is just a super soft, squishy human, and the other part of me is a fire woman. And so it's hard for me to sort of balance my verve and fire and social justice and civil rights and all that stuff with this ability to want to see love. But I think one feeds the other. And when this one's getting too big, I always tell my kids I'm Taka, like in Moana, and I need to get back to being Tafiti. It's important in that space. Like, I think I'm using it most that way. It's like I'm trying really hard to let people know that the reason they're seeing my ire, the reason I'm fighting so hard for certain things in the social justice realm or the civil rights realm is because of love. It's because of love. And I don't want just these people to have it. I want us all to have it.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a good point. So earlier you said you had asked Henry if he had, remembers being with grandma before he chose this life. So when we, as parents, decide to hold that burden of we're responsible for these children, I just want us to point out that they chose you, and you're just a conduit. And your only real responsibility is to keep them safe. And actually, they're closer and more evolved than you are to Christ consciousness. And you're actually just here to learn from them. And so it's not your responsibility, to do anything but to teach them how to keep themselves safe, stand up for themselves, be responsible, be loving, kind, good humans, and then wait for the lessons that they're bringing you. Yes. Because Henry was with grandma. And he said, I want mom and I want dad. And that's the vessel I want to go through for my own challenges, my own evolution, my own everything, And so
How lucky are we?
How lucky are we? You know, I say that about my daughter all the time. Like, thank you. I say, thank you for choosing me.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're teaching me a lesson every time I see you. And I just appreciate it so much.
It's amazing. I read a quote. It just was like about that parenthood worry. And it said, never worry about dragons in the time of dragon slayers. So it's like, these kids are ready. This is their world. They're brought here. They'll handle it. They'll make it work for themselves. And I have to remind myself that we did it. Our parents did it. The generations before us did it. We will all be okay. We will all be okay as long as we keep reminding them those key things. If you have those key things as a human being, you have to let go and just let them.
Oof, what a hard thing, huh?
It's so hard. You can feel it, right? You can feel the heaviness on my chest just thinking about it because mine are still so little. Like your little one is starting to clear into adulthood, and you're like, I think they're there.
But it's continuous letting go. I don't even care. You know,
it's true.
It doesn't matter how old
My
they get.
mom would tell you that, you know, when your kids are old, you still worry about them just as much.
Because it's love and it's connection.
It is. Well, and as we know, love, or as we're discussing, I should say, it's endless. It doesn't die after 80 years. It doesn't die when you die. It will be with you and them forever. We're forever connected.
To me,
and how
love,
cool is that?
Yeah. To me, love is actually the energy that flows through space-time that binds us all.
For sure.
You know, because love is as deep as space.
That's right.
And it's endless and
Thank
it's a
God.
vibration. Yeah. and it is God. It is that connection, you know, that we all have.
It is. It's beautiful.
So, you know, getting back to the podcast more in what these savants, I'll call them savants, because they are, if anything, like we said, more connected to their higher self than this material realm. What do you think that their message to humanity is in this tumultuous times that we're going through? Why do you think
Kai sums that up. And I mean, it really is. It's like, what I got out of the podcast per, you know, what all of the interviewees and the families that they, you know, interview and talk to and this, and then what Kai surmises from those experiences is love is truly it. Like if you want beauty and peace and goodness and connectivity in your life, if you want to feel connected and cared for, lead with love. Lead with compassion and care and love. It's just so clear. Like that's the message. Like all of these kids, they are there not to like, you know, we look at our little earthbound kids with their gaming and they're connecting through sports or whatever. And you're just saying, could you imagine the pride you would feel knowing your children are all connected by just this beautiful sense of self? Like just this beautiful sense of sharing nothing but goodness.
Yeah.
How amazing is that? So, I mean, that's what I got out of this podcast. And that is why I tell everybody to listen to it, because if you've got the time to make it to the end, you'll at least walk out of your car or your walk or whatever, however you're listening to your podcast. Me, I do it folding laundry. You'll just be like, it's going to be okay. It's okay. We're all okay. You know, it's the people who shut down love that are to worry. It's the ones that are replacing, they're replacing it with fear and
Thank
hate.
you. I was going to say, there's only two choices.
That's the opposite. It's fear. The opposite of love is fear, for sure. And that's so tragic because they're so capable of all of it. It's just a matter of finding it in yourself. And, you know, I mean, control is a huge part of fear. And fear is the opposite of love because it's not letting go. I mean, you have to let go.
Well, you can almost say that the love is becoming so much more abundant, and you can see that because the fear is trying to take over so much more. There's a constant battle between that,
For sure.
you know?
Always.
And so as love permeates more and more into our society, you also see more fear being generated to keep that.
Because you can't control. Love is moving. You know, I've heard one of my favorite things is I heard that really solid mental health is flexibility. It's being able to go with it. Like
resilience, yes.
That's right. Yeah. And but I mean, just being able to, it's cool, you know, like you're not holding your ground, but no, you know, this is what I think. This is what I believe. Like, Good mental health is like, cool, you believe that? Well, here I am over here, and I can take a piece of what you're giving me and moving it around. So like, if you look at the zeitgeist right now with this idea that the world is not so great, which I think collectively we all agree that things have gotten out of hand and money has sort of become God over God, and it's ruining us collectively as humanity. And then you see this sort of desire to like, hey, can't we just flow? Can't we let so-and-so be who so-and-so is? Can't we give a little so that these people are raised up and these people have this? And it's like, no, but we have to solve it. Why is there a problem? We got to solve the problem by controlling the problem. And you realize what's driving that is fear. So, if you look at what's happening right now with regard to talking about autism and, that you talk to people who are just so, why is this happening? Why is it happening now? And they believe in the idea that there are chemicals and things in our bodies that just shouldn't be there. And they're right. We've been fed that stuff and things are happening because of money, But then they're also holding so tight to being right. They're also shutting out that there's more to it than that they don't have all of the answers, and that there needs to be some flexibility here. You need to listen to these families. You need to give these kids rights and an ability to have a safe space. You can't just, cut this out and think it's going to be gone, because that's not it. There is no singular answer. And the fear is what makes us try to control everything. Yeah. And that's what makes us all angry at each other. And the love is like, okay, so it's very clear we all love these people. We all want what's best for kids. We all want healthy, thriving children. That is not anything we could ever have to argue about. It's the approach that we argue about. And instead of arguing about the approach and holding so tightly to this belief that you can't hear anyone else, we need to let go, have a little faith, and balance it out. Listen to both sides, And I think that's been so squished out of especially American politics and American society in general. Somehow we've become like Michigan State football. I'm like, This isn't a football team. This is our world, right? Like, we're not meant to choose a side. We're meant to represent.
In the end, it's football.
Yeah.
Or whatever. It's the same. What we've got to understand is that we're just looking at the same thing from two different
That's right.
perceptions, perspectives.
Right. And we usually want the same outcome.
We always want the same outcome, which is love.
Yeah. Good. Everyone well. Everyone being well. That's what everyone wants. And so we just get so bogged down in fighting on how to do it. We forget that maybe we need to let go a little and let it sort of shake itself down and give room, make room.
Yeah, and let's also say that whatever you concentrate on, whatever you give your attention to, wherever your attention goes, your energy flows.
Yeah.
So, fearing and giving your attention and energy to that is helping fuel that.
Yeah.
You really have to, like you said, find the beauty around you and concentrate on that.
Yep.
Because, it's if you can concentrate on love, and I try to approach all things from love because I don't want to fuel what I don't want. I want to feel what I want. And that's love and connection and tenderness and care, compassion.
That's where my two sides fight each other. One is like the justice warrior. The other is like, whatever, man, like, be cool. So
I think you do a great job, man.
It's taken me 50 years, man. I'm working on it. I think we were talking earlier, and I think it's so perfect. Can I read that quote that my friend,
please, yes,
our friend Jennifer Callery posted today, and it's just so absolutely perfect for what we're talking about, and it came from Pope Francis, God rest him, It says, rivers do not drink their own water, trees do not eat their own fruit, the sun does not shine on itself, flowers do not spread for their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are born to help each other. No matter how difficult it is, life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you. And that's from Pope Francis. And I was like, how absolutely timely that we would be throwing quotes from him, especially that one, into the world right now, because that's it. That's the answer. Like, if you really think about it, it's not about possessing things and having control and power. It is about giving. Give.
Absolutely. It's a life of service.
Not about having, it's about giving.
Yes, and I think, COVID showed us that when we had to lock down in our homes, what happened to people?
Yeah.
They started to feel scared,
Isolated.
alone, isolated. We need each other
We
because
do.
service to others is what...
Well, and like you said, that energy exchange, we feed off of each other's energy, and you know, we need that. Whether it's good or bad, it's almost like when you pair a set of lilacs to grow, you have to give them somebody to, you know, be next to. And I just feel like humans are no different. We totally try to outthink our biology and our nature part so much. It's like the more you walk away from that, like ashes to ashes, earth part of yourself, the more lonely you're going to feel. You know,
Yeah.
you just, you know, if you ever feel lonely, like the world is waiting for you to do something so important, walk up to your hips in that lake, you know? Suddenly you're just a small little grain of everything, and you're like, it's like, it's such a relief. You're like, oh, I'm just this little tiny bit of stuff. But yeah, you look into how huge and magnanimous your life and spirit and soul are to you, and imagine what if I'm just one of a bazillion raindrops. And for me, I find that to be so hopeful. Like that's just the coolest, you know?
Have you ever heard Carl Sagan's Pale Blue Dot?
I probably have, but
So
remind me.
it's just like when the telescope got far enough out and it turned around and it showed Earth as this little pale blue dot.
Right.
And he wrote a whole poem about it. It was basically just saying all that we've ever known, all that we ever are, everything that's been said, done, every war, every person, everything is that pale blue dot. And it's in this vastness. And you're just like, it just goes with what you said about the lake. And it's just like,
Well,
is it that important? Or should we just let that go and let love grow?
well, think about as someone well-traveled like you are, and I've had the opportunity to be, the more you move away from what you know, the more you realize how incredible life is. And that's the other thing that I worry about, fear. Just talking to people who are so afraid to leave or try, or just, oh, I would never go to India. I would never go to Chicago. It's too much crime. I'm like, I used to walk my dog and my infant at 10 at night down the streets of Chicago every single day. You know, like, let's talk law of averages here. You're there for like 3 days. I was there for, 365 times 12, nobody shot at me,
Right.
So it's kind of like perspective and just experience. And again, it goes back to that pale blue dot. I mean, here we are, a pinprick in the great, huge universe. But I mean, even you and I sitting here in your space, looking out at the lake and the trees, it's like, look how big this space is right now. Like all the things we have to look at in this room and with each other at that window. And that's just a tiny little scope of our tiny little town, and how exciting is that? Like that just makes me happy because it's endless, I mean, if there's anything I can say from experiences, if you are not happy or don't like it, change it. Yeah. And the antidote to despair is action. It's like, just keep moving. Just shake it up.
Yeah, don't fall victim. It's your choice. You get to choose. You're the creator.
More than we ever know. Yeah. More than we ever know that we'll be okay. Like, I mean, if there's anything I've always wanted anyone to hug me and say is that it will be okay. And that's, it seems like a platitude, but it's the truth. It will be okay. I've been through enough heartbreak and shattering tragedy to tell you on 2 solid feet, it will be okay.
Well, in this podcast, almost in the spiritual side of it, is to say, like, in the end, we started off divine before we came into this life. We are divine and perfect right now, and we are returning back to perfection as we go.
That's right.
This is just a mental construct of what's wrong.
Yeah.
There's either something wrong or there's not.
Yeah.
You choose,
Yeah,
and
it's true.
yes, does it look scary out there? Are there things coming at you? Yes, but when you go inside and you know yourself, you know that you're part of a bigger thing.
That's true. And, I mean, what they don't really tell you, life doesn't tell you is it takes hard work to get there. Like, sure. You're naturally predisposed to things that have been taught or said or shown to you all your life. And a lot of those things revolve around fear. And it really is up to you to find the resource, whether it's a therapist or a great book or a yoga practice or a punching bag. I mean, whatever you need to shift your biochemistry or your thinking or your habits, seek it out. You know, I mean, if you like it, try it. You know, like
Yeah.
it can't hurt. There's no age limit. There's no life limit. There's no limitations on us. I mean, we can literally do so many different gorgeous things, and it's not over till you're dead. Like, and even then it's not over, as we feel anyway.
No.
But I mean, like, when your human body fails and it's gone and your spirit leaves you, those years are limitless. I mean, like, this time frame that we're told we're supposed to live on is silly, and it is totally a construct. You hate your job, shift your look, try something new.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think one of the things that made me just love you even more in our friendship was when you closed the fresh palette and everyone was like, what went wrong? Like, what kind of trouble is he having? And Chad and I went to see you and you were like, I'm just ready for something new. And I was like, how courageous. Yeah. Like, how brave is that? And how awesome is that? Because you were choosing in the end to do what you knew you needed instead of what everyone expected of you. And then look, you're still finding new ways to bring all the goodness that you brought to your restaurant and to that world out into the world. And even with the truck coming this summer, and everyone's super excited to just have a little piece of you back, you know, and that skill of yours. And I mean, that's a living proof of what that can mean. Just because you're walking away from something, whether it be a marriage, a toxic friendship, an addiction, a type of exercise you've done forever but is no longer serving you, a food, a haircut. Yeah. I mean, just because you're leaving it behind doesn't mean that you've somehow failed at it. It means that you're ready for something else, and you should honor that. It just gives you more room to grow.
Absolutely.
It's really cool if you let it be.
It really is. What a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric.
I think you did a great job kind of summarizing what the overall message was. Is there anything that we left out, any parting messages, anything that you'd like to share with people to get them even more enticed on watching this? Because I really see it as a pivotal point
in
collective consciousness.
It's great. And I think one of the things I like to point out just in a unifying sense is one of the things Kai did is she was on Joe Rogan with this. She did an interview with Joe Rogan. And a lot of the LGBTQ plus community were upset with her about that. A lot of people also weighed in addition to that, saying, this just goes to show what she really wants, which is for as many people to hear this as possible. And what was cool is I heard the interview and Rogan was in on that. Like, he was like, this is remarkable. We all need to hear it. You know, what's really neat about it is it's not woo-woo, lefty, weird, liberal, la, la, la. It is life. It is beautiful. It's who we all are. And I think there's not anyone on earth that could listen to this and not find something that means something to them. Even if you're not a believer, or even if you think it's hocus pocus, you're still seeing through this story all these moms and kids and families and friendships that are just full of goodness, you know? I mean, it just leaves you feeling good. It leaves you feeling like the world isn't so bad. You know? And I mean, what more would you want to listen to for 14 hours than some hope? Than some hope. You know, I mean, really, of anything. It's something that you want more than anything. And hope is it. That's it. That's what it left me with. That's why I keep telling people, I'm like, this just makes me feel hopeful for all of us.
Well, there you have it, folks. Hope is in the Telepathy Tapes. Please go and listen to it. Thank you, Kara, for sharing your voice and your truth with us today.
Thank you.
Conversations like this remind us that communication is more than just words. It's resonance, frequency, intention, and alignment with our deeper knowing. May we continue to listen beyond the surface, trust the silent spaces, and remember that we are all already connected. Till next time, keep tuning into the frequency of your own divine self. And we'll see you again here on Harbor Spaces. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.